All right, welcome to episode 66 of the AMT podcast. Hope you're all having a good week. We're joined by Pez again. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm well, and thank you for calling me back.
Of course, yeah, you're always welcome here. Your input, your insights are valued. And today I want to take a deep dive into bankroll management. Like, how do you build a bankroll? How long it took to figure things out? What you had to do in order to grow? How much can you grow? How much you stake? Just things like that, because so often people ask me, how much did you stake? But what nobody asks me is what percentage of your bankroll you staked, because no one really wants to know that. If I tell them 1% and they've got their 500 to £1,000 bankroll, they're not going to be too comfortable staking a five or a tenner simply because you can't make anything. Everyone's trying to make a living. And the goal in the beginning is just to make more winning trades than you lose, because like I said, there's really no way of surviving off such a small bankroll. So the goal in the beginning is just to make more winning than losing trades. And that's why no one asks me what percentage I stake. They ask me what stakes I use. The only issue with that is if they follow on board with the exact staking I'm using, then it just takes one small bad run to wipe themselves clean. So we'll take it from the beginning. Now that you're a profitable trader, you're ready to go full time. How did you start out, and how many times did you mess up before you figured it out? How did you figure out how to manage a bankroll, and essentially what's your journey been?
I still think I am somewhat figuring it out myself, if I'm being honest. That being said, I am nowhere near as reckless as I once was. To answer your question, I might have blown 5 bankrolls, maybe even 6. Who knows? A lot of them were started off with $1,000 bankrolls, and I'd do the right thing. I'd bet 2% of it at a time. I'd be betting $20 here or there, and after grinding away for a month, and I've made, who knows, 3 units. Say I've made $60. I get bored, and I'm like, well, stuff this. Next thing you know, I'm betting $100. The next that goes down. Next one's 200. Next one's 400. Boom, dead. I've done that countless times. Countless times. But I think I learned a lesson, or the biggest lesson I learned is the last time I sort of blew up a bankroll like that. There was a video. It was actually an interview I watched between Khan Berry and Sykov, the famous soccer trader.
Yeah.
And I listened to a lot of notes from him, and he talked about how he had blown mega bankrolls. Like, this is a bloke that was a doctor, and I think he'd even lost his super trading. But he was a really gifted soccer trader. And I think for him, the lessons I learned from him was he just had to slow down and really document it and journal about it, and actually put what was going through his mind before he bet down on a piece of paper, before he actually learned that bankroll management. And I think I took a lot of lessons from that video in particular, or that interview in particular. And then on top of that, I had one of my best mates in the world always continually asking me, being like, is trading a hobby or is it a profession for you? Because they're two very different things. If you want it to be a profession, you've got to treat it like a financial account. If you want it to be a hobby, then keep doing what you're doing. And I think that was a reality check that sort of hit me. But it has taken me, I'd say, 5 or 6 bankrolls before I finally figured it out. And I think even now, I've got a ways to go in perfecting it.
When you say you figured it out, what essentially changed? Was there a light bulb moment, or was it just a process of just making small adjustments every time you messed up?
Yeah, I think exactly what you just said. It was making small adjustments or trying to reflect on why I had stuffed up. And I think a lot of the times when I looked back as to why I had stuffed up, the number one reason was I was betting with too large a percentage of my bankroll. And when you do that, it puts you on tilt. It's very hard to control your emotions when you've lost a third of your bankroll in one bet. When you only are losing, if you're staking 2% of it, and of that 2%, you lose, say, half or even a quarter. Like, you're only losing, less than 1% of your total bankroll. And when you are able to do that, I think your brain operates a lot better when you don't have the stress and the pressure on, and you're just playing with, really small numbers. If I'm being honest, and I think that's what has cracked it for me, being like, okay, you have this bankroll. It doesn't matter how good a bet you think it is, you're not going to go over 2% or 3% of it tops.
Yeah. I think for me and you, it's all well and good staking 1 or 2% because of the level we're operating at now. But how do you tell someone to stick to that risk management if, like I said, they've only got a small amount, like £500?
Well, I mean, it's the only way possible, because I think if you want longevity in this game, it's not possible to do it any other way than the risk management. Because let's say you have a £500 bankroll and you just want to get it to $3,000, and you bet £500, or you're betting half of it in one go. Sure, you might actually get to that. You might turn that £500 into $5,000. But what you've done in that same time is you've learned some horrible lessons along the way, and you try and replicate it with $5,000. It's down the drain. You are so much better to grind your way from a £500 bankroll to a £1,000 bankroll, and do it with the utmost discipline and learn all your lessons along the way, because that will put you in far better stead than if you were to just luck your way to $5,000, because luck's going to run out at some stage.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, so for me personally, when I started out, I loaded up. I think it was around £100, and I blew it. I'd done that similar amount of times. I can't remember exactly, maybe 1 to 5 times, but I do remember the time where I finally was able to grow it, and I grew around 100 quid. It took me around 3-4 months to turn profitable from scratch, and I was trading every day. It was on the horse racing, and I turned 100 quid into around 2,000 or 3,000 pounds, and that's when I really thought I had it. And then I blew up again. I lost most of it. I was down to maybe around 400 or 500 quid. Then I just started over, and this time, again, it was go up and down, but then I turned it into 10,000, and I blew up again. And by now, I was probably worse off than I started, because I felt like I knew how to trade well. I just couldn't trust myself, and I didn't understand what it was that I was doing wrong. And that's when it began to click. So again, there wasn't a light bulb moment, but every time I messed up, it was just a process of trying to figure out what's it going to take to make sure my profits are built to last. And for me personally, it took me literally a few years to realize it was because of my expectations. So I'm trying to earn a living, and the advantage I had on my side was that I didn't have any bills or anything, so I could afford to mess up. Whereas people who've got mouths to feed, or a mortgage to pay, or a missus that's relying on them, they're kind of in that sticky financial situation where they can't go all in. They can't grind staking £5, £10 stakes of a 500 quid bankroll, because they need to make money. So in my opinion, if you're going to start from a position that small, you can only really do that if you start young, like I did, where you have no financial burdens. But if you got a job or something full time, you just got to stick with that, and on the side, just whatever time you can trade, stick to that bankroll management where you divide it into 100 units. Like me, I'm speaking personally, and just let the process of compounding do its thing. So right now, how do you stop yourself from going off the rails? Would you say you're in a position now where you figured it out? And what would you say has been the most important thing that's helped you stay on the straight and narrow?
I'd say I've figured most of the way to figuring it out. I don't think I've got it completely figured out yet, if I'm being honest. And I think I've said it before, is I've always allowed myself to slip up, but I think the better and better I get, there are still slip ups. They're just a lot less frequent than they once were. It used to be a slip up once a week. Now it might be once a month. Now it might be once every 2 or 3 months. Yeah, so that's how I feel about it. And in terms of now how I manage it, I think I try to, I try and run about a 2.5% is the maximum sort of bet that I place of my bankroll. So I don't really want to push too much more than 2.5%. So essentially, I've got 40 units, and my bankroll is made up of 40 units, and I bet one at a time. For full transparency, I suppose my bankroll is somewhere around that 20K mark, which means that a bet for me sits me at my absolute most confident. A bet for me sort of sits around that $500 mark for most cricket games, if I'm being honest. So that's how I sit now. In saying that, I have recently upstaked to that level as well, which is also interesting. I did that just prior to December. I had a really good run. I thought, yep, time to upstake. And then I just got absolutely crucified. Like I don't know how much I handed back. And I remember sitting on a motorbike one day, just driving around, and I was just nothing playing in my ears. I was just thinking, and I was like, all right, you've been down this route before. You know you're going to get massacred when you upstake. You got to persevere through it, and your run will come again. And next thing you know, that's when I had that December, and it was like a magic. It's the best month I've had in my in this game so far. And I stuck exactly to what I said I was going to stick to, which is that sort of 40 unit bankroll, and I didn't bet more than one at a time, and I just went on a tear. Like the pressure was off financially when you're betting 2.5%. Like, whereas when you're starting to bet 10 or 20%, you're like, well, shit, I've only got 5 more rolls of the dice here. That's when it gets nerve wracking. And I think that's when you also make poor decisions. You start seeing things that aren't there. Whereas when it's a really small number, I think it's a lot easier on the brain, and it frees up your brain for what's important, which is making a good decision for what's in front of you being played out in live time or in real time.
Yeah. Essentially, it just comes down to having enough wiggle room, and a big enough cushion. But when you say you can afford to slip up once or twice a month, what exactly does that mean? Because there's a big difference between losing a third of or a fifth or half your bankroll and losing a couple of percent. So just for transparency, explicitly, what does a slip up entail for you?
On one of the previous pods, I said that my max liability is $500. For full transparency, when I lost my head with that Bangladesh Premier League game, I lost 2 of those units, which is a big slip up. I lost $1,000 for a game I had no interest trading, but it's not the effect. It wasn't the imminent effect of that. It was the follow-on effect of that, because when I lost that one bet, it's not that first slip up that hurts you. I think it's the next 3 or 4, and so I lost $1,000 in a Bangladesh Premier League game, and I was filthy at myself for 1, losing money, 2, betting in something that I shouldn't be betting on, and then I just wasn't able to sort of harness my own emotions going to the next game, and I think I lost whatever the next game was. I can guarantee it was a loss, and I think the one after that was a loss. So in the space of say 3 days, I would have lost almost 4 units, like $2,000. And it's really, really annoying when that happens. And then I just had to drag myself away from the screen. I think I was actually talking to you, and I said, mate, I'm at the airport about to board a flight. I think the Melbourne Stars are going to roll the Renegades. It was a match there.
Yeah, I remember.
Maxwell was batting with Osama Mir. And I said, as much as I want to get involved, I've got to sit on my hands. I want to catch a plane and try and forget about it, because I've come off a rough 48 hours. So, yeah, for full transparency, that's what a slip up looks like for me. It's 1, betting in something I shouldn't. 2, I overstretched. I bet 2 units when I should only ever be going 1 maximum unit on something I'm super comfortable with. But yeah, that's what a slip up looks like for me.
Even though you slipped up, you only lost, I say only, but you lost $1,000 of a $20,000 bankroll, but it doesn't even compare losing $1,000 when you've got a $2,000 bankroll. And that's where that's the situation a lot of people find themselves in with a small bankroll. So I think the aim of the game is to build a big enough cushion where you can absorb that, like I said, that numerical figure in and of itself only means as much as how much it is in relation to your bankroll. So if it's half your bankroll, it's just going to crush you mentally. Whereas if it's a few percentage points of your bankroll, then mentally it's going to be nowhere near as stressful. So I know people who stake literally around 20 to 30 times more than I do. And one loss for them is literally a few weeks' wages or a month's wages for me. And that's something I wouldn't be able to bear. That's something that's really going to throw me off. Whereas for them, they can pick themselves up, dust themselves off the next day, the next session. So this is why in our group, when we advise trades, I advise it by units. I don't advise it by a numerical amount, because that's just going to confuse people. They don't know what kind of bankroll I'm operating at. And again, I'm happy to talk numbers as well for sakes of transparency. So me, I have stashed away, around 30 to 40K. That's not all in Betfair, by the way. One, because I don't know how comfortable I'd be having all my cash tied up on Betfair. Two, I can't even get that much money on if I wanted to. I think they've put some deposit limits on me. So in my bankroll, I'm staking, of course, more than 1%, but my total bankroll is the amount I have available to do. But like I said, it's important that people get in the habit of thinking in terms of units as opposed to a numerical amount. And if people can do that, and I really feel like I'm educating people in that regard in our Discord, it ensures that your profits are there to last, and you can ride out dry runs for as long as possible, whether that's a few days, a few weeks, even a few months, because it's about sticking to the process. And you can't stick to the process if you lose 50% of your bankroll. So how important is it, do you think, to build up that cushion? And how important would you say is financial literacy and making sure you're living lean, and just the things you do outside of trading to make sure that you can grow to a level where you don't have to worry about staking big amounts percentage-wise?
I think what you said about financial literacy and living lean is probably the most important thing of this conversation so far. If you can't live lean or live within your means, it doesn't matter if you're making $5,000 a year or 500,000 a year. You can still be poor. And being in construction, I've seen people take home multiple six figures and still have nothing to show for it. So the living lean thing is, and that's the best thing for me, because it's just another avenue where the pressure is off. And it's not saying that I'm going to live lean the rest of my life, but it is important for me right now, with one of my goals, to continue to build my bankroll. And it also takes the pressure off in terms of how much you have to then earn. And it becomes more systems based rather than dollar values based. And I think if, one of my good friends always says it, he says, if you focus as long as you can on the systems part of it, and the money will take care of itself. The second you start wavering your focus and looking at the money side of it, your systems fall apart, and then everything falls apart. So.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. It's like I said, it's hard to be system orientated when you're trying to earn a living, and just that kind of mentality is what ruins your trading. So for me, it was easy in the sense that I had no financial responsibilities. But if you're someone that does, then you need to make sure you keep your job until you can trust yourself to stick to that process where your bankroll is big enough where you can not necessarily match, but you can earn enough money where you take care of your finances and you're still able to have enough left over where you can grow your bankroll. And I think that's the most important thing, because when I was younger, a big part of why I messed up so much, one, there was no pressure because I had no bills, but two, it's I had zero financial literacy. I didn't know what I was doing. I was still in that university student mindset where you get that student loan, you go and spend it. So whatever money I was making, I was withdrawing it, I was spending. I wasn't long-term orientated. I wasn't building anything. Now it sounds like it's like common sense, but I guess sense isn't so common. I don't want to blame anyone and say I wasn't taught, because as an adult, it is your responsibility to figure things out. But I had to do that the hard way. And I kind of got caught in that loop where other people rely on me. I've got bills to pay. And it just became so much harder for me to grow to the level where I wanted to be at. So the age I'm at now, I thought I'd be a millionaire. I thought I'd have cleared $1 million. And I'm absolutely nowhere near where I should have been. And it's not because I'm not a good enough trader. I'm more than good enough. It's just the fact that I didn't have the financial literacy. So I'm at a level where I can make a good living. But for me, understanding what it takes to be financially responsible is just as, if not more important, than becoming a great trader. I don't think you need to be a great trader in order to make a good living. You just need to operate a scale. You need to be ahead of the market.
Yeah.
Even a small edge. I know slightly above average traders who are making multiple 4 figures a month. You can be the best trader in the world, but if you've only got a 500 to £1,000 bankroll, it doesn't matter what your ROI is. And we've spoken about this before. I've done an episode on this before, where you should stop obsessing over ROI and you should focus on operating at scale. You know, Warren Buffett, who's obviously considered the best investor of all time, hasn't even got the highest ROI. The rate he's compounded at, I can't for the life of me think of the guy's name who's had a higher rate than him. But Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, he said that if you take away 4 or 5 of Berkshire Hathaway stocks, our returns are pretty average. So even by their own admission, they're not the best traders or investors that have ever lived. They've just learned the financial habits to do things at scale, to live within their means and grow. So that's essentially the biggest thing that I tell people. It's like, look, you don't need a massive ROI. You don't need a huge hit rate. You just need to be sensible enough to live within your means and put things and put money away where you can just let the process of compounding grow with it. And I would say social media has really messed people up in a lot of ways, especially these Forex and these crypto traders who flex this lifestyle where they're wearing Richard Milles and driving Lamborghinis and flying private jets. It's such bullshit because there's no way they're growing their operations to that scale while living that kind of a lifestyle. So obviously I'm not doing anything of that scale, but I would say that my lifestyle wasn't congruent with my trading, and that's kind of what held me back. So I guess my question is, what are you doing to make sure that your lifestyle stays in check so that you can grow and operate at the scale that you feel like you belong at? And we'll come on to what level you think you belong at next.
Yeah. I actually think I've been blessed with the fact that I think I'm a naturally sort of frugal person. And even when I had, when I was an engineer and climbed my way through the ranks, I don't think my lifestyle crept up too much. Like, I've always loved a beer, and I've always spent more than happy to spend money on the beers with my mates on a Friday or Saturday night. But, apart from that, and I think I said it on an earlier episode, I've got footy shorts that are 12 plus years old. I've got singlets that are 10 years old. Like, I've never really been one to worry too much about buying the latest, this or that or whatever it is. Like, I always get in trouble from my partner or even my mates being like, mate, you got holes in your shirt, and that doesn't faze me. So
yeah,
that's the way I sort of am. So I've been lucky in that sense that I think I've always been somewhat frugal. And, coming from the background or being raised by my parents who grew up with next to nothing, I think that has taught me what frugality actually is and what next to nothing actually is. So, going to their hometown, seeing how they were brought up and all the rest of it, I realized I actually don't need a whole lot to survive. So I think I've always been, I'd say, naturally frugal. And yeah, I think as long as I just keep that up, I think I'll be in good stead. And to add to what you said about Warren Buffett, I think he always used to say that compound interest was the 8th wonder of the world. For someone like him who's been in the market for 70, maybe 80 years, I think he bought his first stock before he was 10.
Yeah.
For 80 years, like, massive. And to be honest, that's the same way I thought to think about trading. It doesn't matter what the ROI is, but if I can just churn out positive month after positive month and grow my unit size in accord with my bankroll, like, I think who knows what life looks like in the next 5 years. And there's another thing I've always thought about, which is, for me to put say $10,000 into a share that goes at 8%. That's one chunk of money gone in one go. Me currently betting my stakes at $500. I'll bet it 20 times over. That's my 10 grand there. I do it at a similar ROI. It doesn't have to be the exact same. If I can do it somewhat positive, that's a franchise tournament like the Big Bash. I'll have 20 bets at that number, and I've matched what I can do with a share. If I can just do that year in, year out, and just maintain positivity and look after the system, not worry about the dollar signs, and just look after, is this a good bet? Would I be happy to take that bet again, regardless if it won or lost, and look after the system? I know with time, I'll be able to add another zero to my bankroll and add another zero to my books. So that's where my head's at with it anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think investing is sort of the last hurdle when it comes to income. I think that you need faster money, whether that's a 9 to 5 or starting a business or even trading. Trading is what we do. It's risky, but we know this is the life that we chose. And it's the thing we're good at. So I think that when it comes to investing, you only do that with the leftover disposable income you have. If you're trying to get rich now without an immediate income, then, I mean, tying up your money in a stock that's going to pay you 8%, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to pay the bills. So I think that whatever money I have left over, I put it away so it can passively earn. But trading is how we make our day-to-day income. And like I said, that 8% you can make a lot faster. But how scalable do you feel like your operations are in sports trading? And I know you're focusing on cricket. Would you say cricket is the best sport to scale up on? Because I mean, you look at the liquidity and you've got 8 to 9 figures matched per game. And it pretty much matches the financial markets, especially the crypto markets, in so many ways. What's the end goal? Is there an end goal? Or is it like a figure in mind that you feel is going to be where you're comfortable, where you're set and you never have to worry about bills again? So again, I don't know if there's a question in there, but it's like, what sort of level would you say that you feel you're capable of getting to, or that you can get to?
I'm not sure what I'm capable of getting to yet, but yes, cricket is the best sport and what I will aim most of my focus is at, because as you said, the markets are colossal. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars matched on a game. In terms of my goals, I haven't really put or allocated a dollar figure to it yet. I think the thing that I am chasing more and more is freedom. I've grinded, I'd say 50 to 60 hour weeks probably on average for the last, 7 or 8 years. I think my end goal is just freedom. It might be to one day have a 200K bankroll where I'm operating at $5,000 a game. And if something goes well for me, I might walk away with $2,500 or something. I don't know. For me, the main goal is sort of freedom at this stage. And yeah, I would love to. 10x seems a bit scary, but 5x seems reasonable and within grasp. And that's what I'm working to. If I can 5x my bankroll and make it 100,000 and 5x my stakes and make it 2.5, I'd love that. But for me, it's not so much the dollar amount. It's just getting the reps in. And I need to get a lot more reps in, because it's only a month ago I lost $1,000 on the Bangladesh Premier League game. If I'm doing that with 100K bankroll, it's a $5,000 loss. And I don't know what my head does after that. So for me right now, it's just about getting the reps in. And I'm sure the money side of things will take care of itself. But yeah, to answer your question, mate, I'd love to 5x what I'm doing now. And then, hopefully when I get there, I can look at you again and be like, yeah, I think I can 5x it again.
Yeah. No, hopefully. Like I said, it's just about being process orientated rather than goal orientated. As soon as you start worrying about the end amount, then it really throws you off of what's happening.